And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I am talking with Mikael Dia. And Mikael, first of all, thank you for just squeezing me into your calendar and spending some time with me.
Oh, likewise, vice versa. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're quite welcome. It's going to be a great conversation because so Mikael's got this company called Funnelytics, and I'm going to let him explain that. But what he does is his company there, it's a technology-based company that helps entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers really optimize all of that online traffic so that you can actually convert clients and get higher profits. So I can't wait to dive into this. How Tell me, Mikael, how in the world did you get doing this?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, I really have been obsessed with the idea of turning traffic into customers for a long time. I kind of figured that if I can solve that puzzle, I could kind of make money in any way, shape, or form, or for any business, right? And if you understand how that game works, it's really the key and the lifeblood to any business if you can get that flow of traffic and turn it into actual customers. So I started diving into this probably around 2010, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there, where I started learning all sorts of different things about digital marketing. I actually used to have a little t-shirt business, and we weren't able to sell outside of our kind of network. So we basically decided, okay, well, how do I sell online? And I ended up Googling, how do you sell online? And it took me down this pretty crazy rabbit hole of different things. So I started learning about SEO. I started learning about, optimizing for keywords to rank on Google, and pay-per-click advertising, and these things called solo ads, if anybody knows that world. And then I started learning about conversions and funnels and emails, and slowly I started to understand how the pieces of the puzzle start to fit together in order to really orchestrate that customer journey that drives kind of these random strangers who've never heard of you before into actual customers for your business. So yeah, that's ultimately how I started in this world. And as I started building different businesses, I ran a Mandarin language school in London in the UK, and I don't speak Mandarin. I've never even been to China. We were able to kind of grow that and exit that. Then I became kind of a consultant and started my own agency, and I really built Funnelytics out of my own need, which is, how do you visualize these journeys, these strategies, and then look at real data to understand what's working versus what's not? Because most of us aren't analysts. We don't love spreadsheets, and we don't love diving into charts and graphs, and they yeah, exactly. And they don't match, what we put on our whiteboard in terms of the strategy. So we built Funnelytics to kind of solve that problem.
Wow. That's way cool. Thank you for doing that, number one. I love the background that you're a business owner. You've done it. You've lived where we live, and turning traffic into clients. That is just the bane of our existence, right? And what I hear all the time from business owners, I need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. And I'm like, well, no, you don't. What do you do with the leads you got,
Yeah,
right? And how do you convert them and walk with them through a period of time, because not everybody's ready today to buy.
totally.
And how do you make sure that you're there in front of them and you're watching analytically, right? And see, I just came off of a call, man, and these are financial advisors like, what kind of CRM should I use? Do I need one? How do I choose? And at one level, that's really an important question. At the other level, if you don't know what to do with your CRM, right? And that's where you come in, I think, is understanding this, the customer journey. I love the word you used, orchestrating the customer journey. Talk about that, and from the business owner's perspective of, it's not, here's an ad, make an offer, buy. It
Yep.
really is a journey of building trust, educating, informing, all of that until they're ready. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you need to understand, really only 3% of your audience is ever ready to buy at any given time, right? So if you're only going after that 3%, well, number one, you better be damn good like targeting and knowing exactly where they hang out, when they're ready to buy, and that's really, really tough, right? It's really tough from a positioning standpoint, from an advertising standpoint, just going after them in that way. So there's really always kind of a couple stages that we want to take people through. Now, I'm not going to talk about the traditional kind of awareness and nurture stage and all that stuff. It really doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to make sure that, number one, traffic that you do not own, but that you can ultimately control, becomes your own traffic. So what do I mean by that? At some stage, I want to collect somebody's contact details, because then I own that traffic, meaning these leads that we talked about that you just mentioned, I can communicate with them in any way, shape, or form that I want, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, retargeting ads, whatever it may be. I now control and own that traffic. And the way that we do this is, again, you go and find a place where you can control the traffic. So for example, Facebook, if I'm going to go and spend money on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube ads, I control who I advertise to, right? But I don't own it. Facebook owns it. So now I want a mechanism that I want to put in place in order to turn that traffic that I can control to the traffic that I own, right? Because once I own it, then now I can follow up. I can nurture that prospect, because like you said, they may not be ready to buy. That said, you should always be making an offer to that traffic right away, because there is 3% who are ready to buy right now, who are ready to solve the problem. And if you don't give them an opportunity, well, you're just basically leaving money on the table, right? So once I get traffic that I ultimately control but don't own yet, I own it, which means I get their contact details. First thing I want to do is make some sort of offer, whether that offer is, hey, watch this video and let's get on a call, right? Or I've got this product here for you to buy right here on this page, right? That solve this particular problem. You know, a good example is when we started this podcast, you started talking about what you offer right away in case I'm potentially ready to buy. If you didn't, then guess what? I start to fade away and you start to forget, right? So we still want to make that offer. And then we want to make sure that the rest of the 97%, we're constantly nurturing them and really drilling down on the pain and the problem that you ultimately solve, right? If we can communicate that in a way that they are thinking about it in their head, eventually it'll bubble up enough that they're going to say, okay, let's move forward. So fundamentally, that is how I think about journeys.
I love it, because you don't know this, but you just echoed everything that I tell my audience and my clients all the time, because you've got to, you need to own. So I talk a lot about your database, right?
Yep.
You're advertising wherever, great. Get them on your list, because now you own it.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if Facebook changes the logarithm or whatever, it doesn't matter, because I own you. And that now I can build that relationship, and yeah, always give you an opportunity to schedule a call or whatever, because I never know who is in that 3%. They're all migrating, because today it's a different 3% than it will be next week. And so
100%.
that offer always have to be there. And at the same time, the other thing I want you to dive into just a little bit, drilling down on their pain. And business owners are really, really good at talking about themselves and their product and their solutions and them. And I'm like, stop it, turn the camera on, focus on your client. Do you find that, or is it just me?
Oh no, I mean it's very easy to get caught up into what you do and how you do it. And the truth is, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody cares about what you did last week or what you're about to do next week. They only care about themselves. And if you can't talk to them about them, they're not going to pay attention, right? So if you're currently facing a problem, or you're about to launch, let's say for us, we obviously have a software, so we're about to launch a feature, let's say. They couldn't care less about my features. It's irrelevant to them unless that feature solves a problem that they're facing and that's keeping them up at night, right? So whenever we communicate, our job is to communicate in a way that ensures we're speaking directly to them about them, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make Otherwise, your conversions tank and it doesn't, you don't make any sales. And I mean, that's sales 101 at the end of the day, right? Most sales 101 says that you should, speak 10% and listen 90, or 80/20, whatever you want to kind of put the number on. That's because when somebody speaks, it means that the other person has to listen to what you're talking to them about. Versus if you let them speak about themselves and about their pains, and that all that does is surface, you can listen to it and then you can just regurgitate it again and say, is this what I heard, that you're struggling with this? And then they're going to say, yeah. And then be like, oh, okay, cool. We got a solution for that. Right. So 100%, you have to focus on them, not you.
Okay, let's turn this a little bit because I can go in all different ways. But funnelytics, let's talk about this. So we're getting lots of leads, but as business owners, you're right, we don't dive into the details, right? We have these fancy CRM systems that could probably do all kinds of stuff. We just don't know how to talk about what funnelytics does for a business owner, and how it kind of operates to really help us take that journey and actually generate revenue at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool. So fundamentally, Funnelytics is actually not for the business owner. It's for the marketer. It's for the person who is ultimately accountable to finding these strangers and converting them into customers, right? So for smaller businesses, that may be the business owner. That's the hat that person has to wear today. However, that's not their strength. That's not what that's not typically what they do.
Right.
What we design Funnelytics for is for marketers by marketers at the end of the day. It's our job as marketers to, like I said, orchestrate that customer journey. Basically, figure out what is that strategy, where are we going to advertise, how are we going to turn that traffic into owned traffic. Once we do own that traffic, what are we going to do to nurture them and to kind of sell them? Where are we going to send them to? We're going to create some sales pages. Are we going to create videos? Are we going to maybe put together a webinar? What does that look like in order to then make that sale and move them to that sale? So when we designed Funnelytics, we basically wanted marketing teams to have kind of this central command center where they can, again, map out this entire strategy. So fundamentally, it is a canvas. It is a digital whiteboard where I can map out this entire strategy, but then again, be able to make decisions on what to do with this strategy based off of data. So now I can actually take this strategy, look at all my pages, my emails, my ads, etc., and I can overlay all of my data right there on top, and I can visually see how are people flowing through this, what are my different conversion rates, where are the drop-offs, where are people getting kind of stuck in the process, and then it allows me to make better decisions because I can visually see it, and most of us are visual people, right?
Well, we totally are, right? And I run, we purchased a CRM years ago back then it was Infusionsoft. And one of the selling features was their campaign builder was a visual campaign. And I think at that time they were like the only people who had this visual thing. Now lots of people have, but when I saw that, I went, you can drag and do kind of like Apple, right? You just drag. It made all the difference in the world because I could see it, and then they could say, oh, look, there are 22 people in this funnel and 5 in this one. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Now you can start digging into that little part there. And that's kind of what I just understood you say is this digital whiteboard. When you said that, buddy, it all came to life to go, oh, now I can see how it all plays out. And then I can, with a click of a button, kind of dive into the analytics that I assume your software kind of pulls in the background.
Exactly.
Right? That's
you got it. So fundamentally, that is a perfect analogy. We just don't we play with every platform. We track what happens on your website. We pull data from all the different platforms, as opposed to, in order for me to have that on Infusionsoft or Keep, I think they're called now, I don't have a choice but to use Infusionsoft. And as you know, Infusionsoft is a nightmare to use a lot of times.
I'm handcuffed to Infusionsoft personally because I've been there 13 years, right? And I'm deep into it. There are probably other CRMs that are quite honestly better for me and my company now, but I'm not going to dig out of the grave. But what you've created is a way for people, for marketers to go in. I assume there's some kind of onboarding template that they put in all their information one time, and then your software goes out and just starts pulling things, and then they can massage and maneuver and add and subtract and based on the data. Is that kind of how it
Yeah,
works?
so think of it as exactly what happens with Infusionsoft, right? In that canvas, and you
Yeah.
see how people are flowing. They go to this page or they don't go to this page, etc. Now, in our software, you can't actually go and build pages, or
Right.
we're not a page builder or a CRM. But instead of looking at a tool like Google Analytics, where you're looking at charts and graphs and spreadsheets, and now you're trying to make decisions based on these charts or graphs or spreadsheets, with our tool, you can actually just see what's happening. So now you can say, oh man, why aren't people going from this thank you page over to my sales page and it's only 1%? Maybe I should make some changes on this page to try
Right.
to increase that number, because if I can increase that number, look at how much more money I make. We've got
Right.
some really cool features on there where we call it forecasting. And basically, you can tweak any of these real numbers and you can say, okay, if I'm able to increase this by 5%, how much more money do I make? If I'm able to add more traffic here, what happens over here if everything else stays the same? So it's just a way for you to simulate but with real data.
Yeah, and it's so cool because what you just, instead of just Google Analytics spreadsheets and things, poke me in the eye, right? Is you're visualizing it. But the other thing is, so many times, just what you said, if you look at your funnels and you say, okay, all right, so for us, put your book on a landing page on your website, give people a way to get a free copy of your book. Give me your email address. Okay, great. You could track that.
Yep.
Thank you page comes up. Great. You could track how many people click on that next offer, whatever it is,
Yep.
right? You could track how many people get the book and open it and who doesn't. You could track how many people, and watching that to go, okay, people are getting the book, but they're not taking that next step. I wonder why. Let's go back and look at our offer. Let's go back and look at the email, right? It gives you practical data that you could just pull up and look at, make a decision, make a change, and then come back a day or two or three later and go, oh, look, we increased it by 10%. It's amazing because you don't need, I mean, business is not 80% increases and everything. It's 1% and 2% increases in lots of different places that all add up cumulative. And you said a word earlier that I just want to come back to because this is so, and the word you used was complex. And all of this can be very complex when you don't have a tool like what you've created in Funnelytics. And y'all are just in the background pulling everything together. You just found a really neat way to present it,
Yep.
and that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. When you can visualize things, it makes it easier to, I mean, look, we kind of take it back. I mentioned this a lot to, my team and even to our customers. Like, there's a reason why even in ancient times they use hieroglyphics, because at the end of the day, a picture is much easier to understand than anything else. And when you can visually see that picture, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. There's a page here and it looks like a page, and it goes and there's a little dollar sign over here, and I'm connecting these two, and I understand somebody goes from a page to then make a purchase, and I can see how many people go through that, versus let me create a spreadsheet and let me just put together in this cell a formula that equals this. And so that's really what it comes down to.
It's kind of, I mean, this is a wacky example. Years ago, I was in corporate America and we had, spreadsheets and things, and it drove me nuts because I'm not a numbers guy. And then a friend came and says, well, why don't you create like a pie chart or something from that data? I'm like, you do what? And they just took the data set and created a pie chart, right? Same stuff, visualized. I'm like, oh, that's it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everything came to life for me because I'm super visual. And that's what you allow marketers to do, is to visualize the journey
You got it.
and to find out where people are falling into the ditch per se, and who's actually crossing the finish line. Because we want to be able to go get the tow truck and pull them out of the ditch and fix whatever barrier was broken, so more people come across the finish line to generate more revenue, more profits. Is that fair?
Pretty simple.
Man, this is a crazy, because I mean, you're the first guy I've talked to who's actually done something like this that I can think of to make data visual. And from a marketing standpoint, to be able to stand back and look at what you just said, emails and websites and you name it, everything you're doing in marketing in a visual aspect, and see how it all comes together, all day, all driven by your own data. That's the other thing, right? Because you're just pulling all the data that that company is using. So it's their data from
Yep.
whatever sources, and you're saying, here's what it looks like, and they can talk about how to find better solutions.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound like it was super easy and but you know what? It's a mission that we've been on for a long time, and we've spent a lot of money on very incredible engineering talent in order to make this happen. It didn't happen overnight, and it's still evolving. It's still growing, and but yeah, that's ultimately the entire goal of our company.
Yeah, well, you've done something that I think, and I look back behind you and I see the Steve Jobs quote, right? And when I mean, you're probably not even old enough for this, but when they came out with the iPod,
Yeah.
I remember as a kid carrying a boom box
I'm
on.
not that young, by the way. I'm not that young.
You just look young, okay?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I remember the boom box and the Walkman and the Discman, and then he comes out with this dumb ad that says 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
And what Apple does is make very complex things super simple for the user.
Yep.
A great user experience, whether it's an iPod, an iPhone, an iMac, an i whatever, super simple.
Totally.
And that's what you have done with data for marketing and businesses is you've made it super simple, a great visual experience for the marketer to be able to get their heads and their hands around what's going on so I can make intelligent decisions that will actually help that customer journey and drive more profits.
Yeah,
Fair?
absolutely. Our marketers are not data scientists. They're not analysts. They're marketers.
Yeah.
They like to use words. They like to use pictures. Yet the only way they can make any sort of data-driven decisions is to basically hire or become a data analyst in today's day and age. We just want to kind of democratize that a little bit, make it a little easier.
I love it. I love it. From what I've understood in the last few minutes, you've made it a lot easier. How do people take that next step to learn more about you, to see demos, to just get engaged with this new way of finding and seeing data and getting their heads around it? Where do they
Yeah.
go?
So go to funnelytics.io and you can sign up for a free trial. We're actually just building kind of a really cool free demo experience. Basically, it's an interactive demo where you can play with the actual tool with real data that's basically, cleaned up and dummy data. And I think that that's something that people will really get a kick out of, because then you can actually play with it. So go to funnelytics.io. It might not be live by the time you hear this and listen to this, but very soon we will be releasing that. Otherwise, I mean, if you like to learn more about this kind of stuff, my social media of choice, I guess, is LinkedIn. So you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, and I post a lot of stuff there.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to make sure that we have links to funnelytics.io in the show notes, as well as your LinkedIn profile, so people can reach out to you. They can. That free demo experience is really cool because, yeah, that would be really neat to go, wow, this is it, right? It's like going out to see a car and saying, why don't you just test drive the new Tesla, see if you like it or not.
Exactly.
Right? I'm sold, right? So that's a great idea, by the way. So
Cool.
I'm going to make sure all that's in the show notes, and hopefully people will reach out to you, because I think what you've created here is a really cool way for marketers to get their heads and hands around something in a different way, and to do it in a way that's probably more natural to them,
Yeah.
because they're not data scientists, but they need the data. This was a great visual way to do it, very Apple-esque, dare I say.
Oh,
So
cool. Well, I guess that then the quote makes sense.
it really does. It really does. Well, thanks for being bold enough to think you're going to be able to change the world, because those are the crazy ones who actually do. I think you've got a game-changing technology here that's going to help a lot of people.
I
So,
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mikael, you're welcome. Thanks for being my guest. Thanks for doing what you do, and for sharing your expertise on my podcast today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.